or Afghanistan, of fighting age, a gay man, would you return a gay man to Iran?
Our priority will be the British people. I want to keep saying that. I want to say...
So the answer is you would return a gay... Because in Iran, being gay is not only illegal, but it is punishable with flogging through to the death penalty. But you're saying you would return a gay man to Iran?
Why?
Return a gay man to Iran, yes or no? Zah Yusuf squirms. 600,000 deportations hang in the balance. Watch the right-wing plan smash the human rights roadblock.
Because people come from Afghanistan, women, for instance, who have an absolutely appalling experience under the Taliban. You might establish that they're not here legally. But we don't think that the Taliban is a reasonable government, and we don't think it's a reasonable country to return people to. We don't have any sort of treaty with the Taliban. What are we going to do about people where we have serious concerns about what we would return them to?
OK, so the vast majority of illegal migrants coming from Afghanistan are not women and girls, they're men. The majority of them are fighting-age men. And so the question we would ask is, who's sticking up for British women? Because, I was asked recently, I appreciate you didn't use this phrase, why would you send people back to, quote, woman-hating Afghanistan? Why are so many men from, quote, woman-hating Afghanistan being allowed to turn up on our beaches uninvited?
My question was about the women.
Well, our priority, and we make no apologies for this, is British people, British girls and British women.
Do you think
we need to stand up for them. We need to stand up for them.
To British women?
Well, again, the reason we are so focused on ensuring that this gets done is because the vast majority of the people illegally in this country from Afghanistan, I've seen these numbers, are men. In fact,
so are you only going to target the men and not target the women?
Well, deportation command would be foolish, Susanna, for deportation command to start when we've got probably north of 1 million illegal migrants in this country, at least, to start focusing on women and girls. The best estimates, but the total population of women and girls from Afghanistan in this country at sub 2,000. We're talking about 0.2% of the total population. We will start with the men. We will start with the fighting-age men. They are the ones, by the way, who people watching this programme are most worried about.
And you've allocated £2 billion to pay countries to take returns. You've said, Nigel Farage said last week, that that would include countries like Afghanistan, Iran. You've said it wouldn't be women and children. If you are a gay man who's come to Britain to claim asylum from Iran or Afghanistan, of fighting age, a gay man, would you return a gay man to Iran?
Our priority will be the British people. I want to keep saying that. I want to say...
So the answer is you would return a gay... Because in Iran, being gay is not only illegal, but it is punishable with flogging through to the death penalty. But you're saying you would return a gay man to Iran.
Why does it appear to be that we're OK with the vast majority of the people coming from Iran are fighting-age men as well? In fact, some of them, very well-sourced stories suggest had a potential terrorist attack foiled by our security services. 4 men from Iran who turned up on a boat. Our priority, and Nigel's priority when he's Prime Minister, will be the British people.
And we make no apologies for that. The nature of being in government is, because you referred to him as Prime Minister Nigel Farage, if you're in government, you have to be able to answer the difficult questions. That's what government ministers do. That's what you need to do as well. You would return a fighting-age gay man to Iran or Afghanistan. I think, that is a perfectly legitimate thing to say, because you're saying we're prioritising the rights of British people and not the rights of an asylum-claiming prime-age man who is gay, they would go back to Iran or Afghanistan. I think the answer is the answer is yes.
Well, what I'm saying today is we make no apology for saying that this issue needs to be sorted out and we're going to prioritise British people.
But you would return gay men.
But let me also be clear about something. You're asking me about Afghanistan. We came out and talked about Afghanistan, and the Home Secretary then came out the very next day and said they would consider doing a deal with Afghanistan. You look at Iraq.
Of course.
And by the way, Germany's already returning illegal migrants to Afghanistan, albeit via Qatar as an intermediary. And this Labour government has done a return agreement with Iraq. And I would put it to you, Ed, that gay people don't have a particularly nice time in Iraq either. Look, the world is unfortunately, as Nigel has already said, he cannot be held, if the British people see fit to vote him in as Prime Minister, he cannot be held accountable for the actions of every despotic regime. We will, of course, not deliberately send anyone back to get tortured or harmed in any way. But we make no apologies. We have north of 1 million people in this country illegally. That number is growing. The pace of people arriving is accelerating. We cannot afford it. It's totally unfair on the people watching this program.
These deportation sites, I mean, you're going to have a huge number of big sites for 24,000 a month to be held. Have you identified yet, through your Doge work, have you identified your first site where you'd be able to build one of these camps?
So we've got a long list and a short list. But if you look at...
Just give us one name.
Well, here's the reason we won't give names, Ed. If we give the names, if we give the names now, prior to the manifesto, ahead of the next general election, I'll tell you what will happen. So the Labour government will sell them off and they'll become a solar farm.
Names in the manifesto,
what will happen.
then. So you will have names of the camps in the manifesto.
We have already been clear, Ed. We've already been clear about where we will put these. They will be in remote locations. It will be modular. And you know what's most important here? What's most important? They will be detained. They will not be allowed to... One of the reasons there's so much understandable concern about this and the protests, which we sympathise with, from a lot of worried mums in particular, is because these people, about whom we know nothing, and come from the kind of cultures that you have just articulated, by. They want to stress that. These are the people who are inside these communities against the community's wishes. They are able to roam free. Under a reform government, that will not be the case. They will be detained and they will be deported.
Zia Youssef, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Just before we let you go, I just want to ask you about this tweet from Elon Musk yesterday. Farage is weak, runny sauce. He won't let reform stand up for their own people. He'll change nothing of significance politically. Go with Advance UK, Ben and Tommy, presumably referring to Tommy Robinson, for the real change that's needed to save Britain. What's your reaction to that? He's one of the most powerful communicators in the world, Elon Musk. Do you think that that's an unhelpful thing for him to say? Do you worry about him saying things like that?
We don't worry. I think, look, I'm an entrepreneur. I think Elon is the greatest entrepreneur of all time. That's my opinion. I think his political judgment has become extremely poor. To put it mildly, he spent hundreds of millions of dollars of his own money to get Trump elected, and then within months betrayed him and started attacking him, said he was going to launch a new party in America. I'm not sure what's going to happen there. So, look, Elon tweets all sorts of stuff. We're focused on getting our message out to the British people. We now have, on average, a 10-point lead over the current government. We take nothing for granted. We need to make sure that British people understand that the only way we will sort these issues we're talking about, Susanna, and start improving lives is a reform government.
When he says Tommy Robinson is the real deal, what do you think about that? What is that real deal?
You'd have to ask him it. I'm not a spokesman for Elon.
Is Tommy Robinson ever going to be welcome within reform?
No.
Zia Youssef, thanks very much.
Look, I have sat through years of BBC and ITV soft soaps that treat every Tory or reform spokesman like a war criminal while giving Labour free ride. So when Susanna Reid suddenly pretends to be a barrister for global compassion, I know exactly what game is on. She keeps banging on about Windrush, as if one Home Office blunder 30 years ago now bans Britain forever from removing anyone who slips past Calais. I am sorry, that is not morality, that is emotional blackmail dressed up as journalism. The British public can see the trick, which is why reform has just jumped another 4 points while the Tories are flatlining. Let us deal with the big scare first 600,000 removals over 5 years. That is 120,000 a year, roughly the same number that Spain expelled in 2023 alone, and less than what Greece managed in the single year after the Turkey-EU deal. The EU's own Frontex data shows that when a country signals it will actually use detention and flights, the boats drop by 2/3 within 6 months. The how do you find them panic is a red herring. Every illegal migrant has already given himself up the moment he signs for an NHS number, a GP, a hotel room, or a cash-in-hand job. The Home Office holds more than 170,000 separate national insurance numbers that have been issued to people whose asylum claims were still under review after 5 years. That is not a data problem, it is a willpower problem. Susanna's second favourite horror story is we will deport gay men to Iran. Fine, let us talk numbers. Of the 14,700 Iranians who arrived in small boats since 2018, Home Office sex and age data show 87 are males aged 18-35. In the same period, the department recorded exactly 43 successful asylum claims based on sexual orientation. 43, not 43,000. Yet we are meant to believe the channel is full of persecuted Iranian drag queens. The truth is that the gay angle is the last loophole the traffickers tell their clients to recite when every other story collapses. I am not saying genuine cases do not exist. I am saying they are statistically tiny and can be screened by fast-track tribunals in 28 days, exactly what Denmark does. Copenhagen removed 110 Iranians last year after those hearings. Amnesty did not even bother to issue a press release because the process was fair and public. Now the Afghan women question. Reid keeps sobbing that we cannot send women back to Taliban cruelty. Nobody is proposing that. Reform's own briefing paper, posted on their site for weeks, explicitly puts women, children and the elderly in Category 4, the lowest enforcement priority. The first wave targets single adult males who arrived after January 2022, when the Taliban already controlled the country. If you left Kabul airport in 2023, you were not fleeing the fall, you were taking a calculated economic gamble, and you did so after the Home Secretary had already announced that Afghans would be processed through safe and legal schemes in Pakistan and Iran. Choosing the dinghy instead was a deliberate attempt to jump the queue. Susanna's Paisidara assistance is you cannot prove someone threw away his passport. Really. Every border force cutter now carries a fixed forward-looking infrared camera that records the deck of every boat it escorts in. In 2022, the footage was used in 1,800 individual prosecutions for people smuggling. The same video shows migrants ripping up ID papers and dropping them in the sea. The reason we do not use that evidence is that the 1951 Convention still forbids us from using pre-arrival behavior against an asylum seeker. Reform simply wants to scrap that clause for people who arrive from safe third countries, something Italy already did in its 2023 migration decree, and the ECHR did not even bother to challenge. Once the deterrent is real, the Channel route dries up. Albanian crossings dropped 90 the moment Rishi signed the returns deal with Tirana and started putting young men on coaches at Harmondsworth. Which brings us to the £2 billion price tag. Reid presents it as a fortune, yet £2 billion over 5 years is £400 million a year, less than the £8 billion we spent in 2023 housing illegal migrants in hotels. The going global rate for third country returns is between 100 and 500 per capita, the figure the UN uses when it pays Rwanda to take Congolese refugees. Even if we paid the top rate, 400 million shifts 260,000 people, comfortably above the 120,000 annual target. The money is already there. We are spending it now on mattresses and 3 meals a day inside a Britannia hotel in Peckham. Finally, the ID card sideshow. I have no ideological objection to proving who I am. I already do it every time I board a plane or pick up a parcel. The left's real objection is that a modern biometric ID would end the cottage industry of ghost identities that underpins illegal work, and by extension, their client vote bank. Every EU state except Ireland and the UK has had ID cards for decades. None has become a police state, but all of them have faster labour market enforcement. France's titre de séjour check takes 90 seconds. In a CAF, if the owner employs someone without it, he loses his licence the same afternoon. That is why Calais is full of Somalis and Guineans who say non to France and wait for Dover. They know Britain still runs on 19th century paper. So when Zia Yousaf says we will prioritise British people, he is not being cruel, he is being precisely what a government is elected to do. The British public already understand that the polls prove it, and no amount of breakfast TV hand-wringing will change the maths.